Something is happening to you right now, and it started long before you pressed play on this video. There is a shift moving through the fabric of reality itself, a slow and ancient turning that has been building for years, for lifetimes, converging right here, right now, on this exact day, April 1st, a date that carries within it far more weight than the world has ever been told. This is not an ordinary morning. This is not an ordinary day. This is not a moment you stumbled upon by coincidence, because there are no coincidences in the architecture of a soul's awakening. What is happening to you in this moment, what is happening inside your chest right now, that quiet trembling, that soft knowing, that feeling that something is about to change in a way that cannot be reversed, that is not your imagination. That is recognition. That is your soul arriving at the threshold it has been walking toward since the moment you were born into this life. You are standing at the edge of a portal, and this portal is not a gate somewhere in the sky. It is opening inside of you. I need you to stay with me for this entire message, because every word you hear from this point forward was meant to reach you, not someone like you. You, the version of you who has spent far too long making yourself smaller. The version of you who has learned to say yes when every fiber of your being was screaming no. The version of you who swallowed your voice, dimmed your light, and told yourself that survival was enough, that invisibility was safety, that disappearing into the expectations of others was somehow the same thing as living. Today, April 1st, something cosmically rare is happening, and the universe has pulled you here, to this exact moment, to tell you that the pattern is breaking. The old agreement you made with fear, it is being dissolved. Not because you forced it, not because you fought hard enough or finally became worthy, but because the time has come. Because the shift has arrived. Because something greater than your own willpower has decided that this cycle ends now. Before we go any further, I want to ask you to do something, and I want you to understand that this is not a mechanical request, not a checkbox to mark, not something the algorithm needs. What I'm about to ask you is a ritual. It is an act of energetic alignment, a way of saying to the universe, I am here, I am ready, I am open. If you feel this message in your body, if there is something stirring in your chest as you listen to these words, then press the like button as a declaration. Subscribe to this channel as a commitment to your own awakening. Leave a comment, a word, a number, anything that feels true, as an anchor, a way of fixing this moment in your timeline. Seal it. These small actions carry more vibrational weight than you might realize. They say, I choose this. I choose to stand at this threshold and walk through, and the universe hears every choice you make, especially the quiet ones. Now let me tell you what is actually happening right now. Energetically, something extraordinary is in motion. There is a convergence occurring, not just astrologically, not just cosmically, but at the level of soul frequency. Something in the field has shifted. You can feel it even if you cannot name it. The air feels different. Your thoughts feel louder. Your emotions feel closer to the surface. You may have noticed that the past few days have carried a strange heaviness or a strange electricity, or both at the same time. A sense that you are standing between two versions of your life, between the one you have been living and the one that has been waiting for you. That feeling is not anxiety. That feeling is not instability. That feeling is the sensation of a portal opening, and it is opening through you. This is not metaphor, this is not spiritual poetry dressed up in pretty language to make you feel better. A portal, in the truest energetic sense, is not a place. It is not a door you walk through with your physical body. A portal is a vibrational state, a moment of convergence, when the frequency of who you have been and the frequency of who you are becoming collide so powerfully that the old structure of your reality can no longer hold its shape. The walls soften, the patterns crack. The stories you have been telling yourself begin to lose their grip. And in that opening, in that trembling moment of in-between, something new can finally enter. Something true, something that was always yours but has been buried under years of learned smallness, years of making peace with a life that never quite fit, years of wondering if the fullness you feel inside of you, the vastness, the fire, the knowing, could ever actually be lived out loud. April 1st is not a day the world takes seriously, and perhaps that is exactly why the universe chose it. The grandest awakenings rarely come announced with fanfare. They arrive in the ordinary. They arrive in the quiet. They arrive in the middle of an unremarkable Tuesday, while you are sitting still, and something inside you finally, irrevocably, breaks open. Today is the energetic 1st of April in more than one sense. It is a beginning dressed in disguise. It is the kind of date that looks like nothing on the surface, but carries within its field the frequency of rupture, of renewal, of the very first breath after a long and suffocating hold. This day has been marked in the invisible calendar of your soul for longer than you know. And you are here. You arrived. You answered the call. I want you to stop for a moment and honestly sit with what you have been feeling lately, because I know what some of it has been. I know there have been nights where the silence felt too loud, where the dreams came with a clarity that felt more like memory than fiction. I know there have been moments during the day where a wave of emotion arrived without warning. A sudden grief, a sudden longing, a sudden and inexplicable sense of joy so large it almost frightened you. I know there have been strange distortions in your sense of time, moments that stretched far beyond their natural length, moments that collapsed into nothing before you could grasp them. I know you have caught yourself thinking of things from long ago, of who you were before the weight was placed on your shoulders, before the fear became habit, before the silence became armor. I know some part of you has been asking a question you don't quite have words for. Something like, is there more than this? Something like, why do I feel so much and show so little? Something like, when does the real version of my life begin? These are not the questions of someone who is lost. These are the questions of someone who is waking up. These are the tremors before the earthquake. These are the signals that the soul sends when it knows, even before the mind can understand, that a transformation is already in motion. You are not imagining this. You are not being dramatic. You are not broken and you are not confused. You are attuned. You are sensitive in the precise way that this moment requires. What you are feeling is resonance. It is the vibrational intelligence of your being, recognizing that the frequency of this portal matches the frequency of where you are meant to go. You have been prepared for this. You have been prepared in the most difficult, most tender, most sacred of ways. Let me speak to the preparation, because this is perhaps the most important thing I will say. Everything you have been through, every moment where you made yourself small to keep the peace, every time you apologized for simply existing, every relationship where you gave everything and received almost nothing, every version of yourself you buried to be accepted, every dream you silenced because someone else's comfort mattered more. None of it was punishment. None of it was evidence that you are worth less than others. All of it, every ache, every loss, every dissolution, was preparation. The universe does not prepare you gently for an ordinary life. It prepares you through fire for an extraordinary one. The sensitivity you carry is not a wound. It is a gift that was never meant to be given to a life this small. The depth you feel is not a problem. It is a capacity, a signal of how much aliveness is available to you once the old patterns finally fall away. You are not someone who was forgotten. You are not someone who was passed over. You are someone who was being shaped, and the shaping is complete. What is happening now, this portal, this shift, this April activation, is not the beginning of your preparation. It is the end of it. It is the moment where everything you have survived, everything you have endured, everything you have quietly carried begins to crystallize into something with weight and direction and power. The pattern of submission is not who you are. It was never who you were. It was a response to a world that did not yet know how to hold someone like you. But that world is shifting. And more importantly, you are shifting. The frequency inside you is rising. The code is activating. And the old way of being simply cannot survive the new frequency that is moving through you now. There is something I want you to understand about the pattern itself. The pattern of making yourself smaller, of fearing your own voice, of erasing yourself in the presence of others. This pattern was not born in weakness. It was born in survival. At some point in your life, perhaps very early, you learned that being yourself fully was dangerous. You learned that your realness was too much, your feelings were too loud, Your needs were inconvenient, your light was threatening to people who had never learned to sit with their own darkness. And so, slowly, carefully, over years and decades, you learned to manage yourself, to edit yourself, to become the version of you that kept the peace, that didn't ask for too much, that folded and bent and disappeared when the situation called for it. And you became very good at it. So good that sometimes you forgot there was a version of you underneath all of that management. A version that did not apologize, that did not shrink, that was not afraid of taking up space. But that version of you never left. It has been there this entire time, underneath the survival strategies, underneath the armor, underneath the years of learned smallness. It has been waiting. It has been patient in the way that only something truly ancient can be patient. And today, April 1st, on this extraordinary day when the energetic field is cracked open and something new is pouring through, that version of you is rising. Not because you finally did everything right, not because you have healed enough or grown enough or become worthy enough, but because the portal has opened, because the cosmic conditions have aligned, because the soul you carry inside of you has reached the exact vibrational temperature where transformation is no longer optional. It is inevitable. When a portal activates, the physical world begins to reflect it. This is not always a gentle process. You may notice that certain people in your life are beginning to feel misaligned, as if a frequency difference that was always there has suddenly become impossible to ignore. Relationships that once felt familiar may now feel constrictive. Environments that you have inhabited comfortably for years may now feel wrong in a way you cannot quite articulate. Things that used to numb the discomfort, distractions, habits, routines, may suddenly feel hollow, as if their frequency no longer matches yours. This is not a crisis. This is a reorganization. When the soul accelerates, everything in the surrounding field has to recalibrate. Some things will fall away. Some things will enter. The old structures will not survive the new frequency, and this is not a tragedy. It is architecture. It is the universe reshaping your outer world to match the inner world that is being born. You may resist this. I want to speak directly to the part of you that is already preparing to doubt what you are hearing, already preparing to write this off as wishful thinking, as emotion, as projection. That part of you is not your enemy. It is simply the guardian of the old frequency, the part of you that learned to protect itself by staying small, by not hoping too much, by managing expectations to avoid disappointment. It has served you. It has kept you safe in the seasons when safety was what mattered most. But it cannot come with you through the portal, not in the same form, because the version of you that walks through this threshold is not the version that manages and minimizes and survives. The version walking through is the version that trusts, that opens, that receives, that dares to live in full alignment with what it actually is. Resistance does not stop the portal from opening. It only makes the experience of transformation more disorienting, because you end up standing inside a frequency shift while simultaneously trying to hold on to the old reality. You will feel pulled in two directions. You will feel the grief of what is dissolving and the excitement of what is emerging, sometimes in the same breath. This is normal. This is sacred. Let yourself feel all of it. The tears are not weakness. They are release. They are the physical expression of frequencies that are leaving your body to make room for what is coming. Let them flow. Let the old narrative dissolve. Let yourself stop performing the version of you that the world trained you to be, and begin slowly and courageously to inhabit the version that has been waiting inside of you since the very beginning. The universe is not subtle when it wants your attention. You have already seen the signs, the numbers appearing in patterns, the repetitions, the sequences that seem to follow you everywhere, on your phone, on clocks, on receipts, on pages, in the quiet moments when you close your eyes. You have heard songs that arrived at precisely the right moment, carrying words that felt like they were written for exactly what you were feeling in exactly that hour. You have felt the pull towards certain words, certain places, certain ideas, certain images that keep surfacing in your awareness with an insistence that feels almost urgent. These are not coincidences. I need you to hear this clearly. The universe is not speaking more loudly than before. You are hearing more clearly than before. Your perceptual field is expanding. Your intuitive channels are opening. The portal that is activating through you is simultaneously opening your ability to receive the communications that were always there, always being sent, always waiting for you to become still enough to receive them. When the soul awakens to its own sovereignty, to its true capacity, to its actual magnitude, it does not simply think differently. It becomes different. The very frequency that radiates from your being begins to change. The signal you emit into the field shifts, and the field responds. This is not magic in the superstitious sense. This is the physics of consciousness. Like attracts like in ways that go far beyond the simplistic. When you stop vibrating at the frequency of fear and begin vibrating at the frequency of truth, of courage, of authentic self-expression, the world around you has no choice but to reconfigure in response. The people who were drawn to your smallness will drift. The opportunities that could only enter through the frequency of your sovereignty will begin to appear. The version of reality that was always available to you, the one where you are seen, where you are heard, where your presence is undeniable and your gifts are recognized, that reality begins to materialize. This is the promise of this portal. This is what April 1st carries within its energetic field. The power that was taken from you, through conditioning, through fear, through the accumulated weight of years spent managing yourself into invisibility, is being returned. Not all at once, not in a single dramatic moment, though you may feel it as one. It is being returned in layers. In the first layer, you stop apologizing for your existence. In the second, you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the edited version, not the safe version, but the true one. The one that knows things before it can explain them. The one that has been waiting to speak in full. In the third layer, you begin to live from that voice, to make decisions from it, to relate to others from it, to stop measuring your worth by someone else's response to you and begin measuring it by how closely your life reflects what you actually are. This is the reclamation. This is the awakening that this portal carries, not the awakening of reaching some enlightened state beyond human experience, the awakening of returning to yourself, of coming home to the self that existed before the fear, before the conditioning, before the learning to disappear. The self that is ancient and undamaged, that has always known its worth, that carries a light so undeniable that the only reason you could ever have hidden it was because someone, somewhere, taught you that light was dangerous. Today, that teaching ends. Today, the pattern breaks. Not because you finally figured out how to be braver or stronger or more disciplined, but because the cosmic window that has opened in this moment is specifically calibrated to break patterns that individual willpower could never break alone. You did not choose this alone. The field chose you. I want you to feel for a moment what your life begins to look like on the other side of this portal. Imagine waking up in the morning without that quiet dread, without the weight of having to be someone you are not, without the exhausting performance of managing how much of yourself is safe to show. Imagine speaking your truth in a conversation without the immediate reflex of guilt or apology. Imagine taking up exactly the space your soul was designed to inhabit, in a room, in a relationship, in a creative act, in a decision, without shrinking, without editing, without wondering whether you are too much. Imagine that the things you desire, the life that lives in the deep interior of your imagination, the version of reality that feels true and beautiful and aligned, imagine that it is not a fantasy. Imagine that it is a frequency, and you are beginning to match it. This is not a distant future. This is not a reward waiting at the end of a long road of self-improvement. This is what becomes available when the portal opens and you choose to walk through. The direction is clear. The courage is already inside you. The authenticity was never lost, it was only buried, and the burying is done. From this point forward, every moment you choose your truth over your fear. Every moment you speak from your depth rather than your performance. Every moment you refuse to make yourself smaller for someone else's comfort. You are walking further through this portal. You are living the activation. You are becoming the frequency you have been waiting to inhabit your entire life. There is a version of you that the world has never fully seen, a version that is unafraid, a version that knows its direction with a certainty that does not depend on anyone else's validation. A version that can sit in a room full of voices and hear its own voice most clearly. A version that has released the exhausting project of making itself acceptable and has picked up the far more thrilling, far more sacred project of making itself fully real. That version is not a stranger to you. You have felt its presence in your best moments, in the quiet after a hard decision, where you finally chose yourself, in the moments when something true and unscripted came out of your mouth and the room went still, in the creative moments, the honest moments, the moments when you stopped performing and simply were. That is who you actually are. That is the version this portal is calling forward. And as you step into this version of yourself, as the old patterns of submission, of fear, of self-erasure begin to lose their hold, the world will respond. Not always gently. Growth rarely is, but with an unmistakable sense of rightness, of alignment, of finally moving in a direction that costs you nothing of your soul. The relationships that remain will be real ones, people who see you at your fullest frequency and are not threatened by it, but illuminated by it. The work you do will carry the signature of someone who is no longer editing out the most powerful parts of themselves. The choices you make will come from a place of sovereignty rather than survival. And your life, the actual texture and quality and meaning of your daily life, will begin to feel for perhaps the first time like your own. This is what April 1st is opening. This is what this portal is delivering to those whose souls have been ready, who have done the invisible interior work, who have loved and lost and grown and suffered and arrived finally at the threshold of reclaiming what was always rightfully theirs. You are one of those people. The fact that you are here listening to these words, feeling what you are feeling right now, that is not coincidence. That is election. That is the universe confirming in the only language it has that you are meant for the frequency this portal is carrying. You have arrived. The portal is open, and it is open specifically, precisely, unmistakably for you. Now, before I guide you to the next step of this activation, I want you to do something for yourself that is also an act of declaration to the field. If this message has moved something inside you, if you felt yourself recognized in these words, if something loosened in your chest as you listened, then let that recognition be witnessed. Press the like button, not for the algorithm, not for me, but as a signal to yourself and to the universe that you received this transmission. Subscribe so that your journey continues to be supported, so that each new portal and each new activation finds you ready and aligned. And in the comments, write one word, and just one, that represents what you are releasing. Fear, smallness, silence, submission, invisibility. Write it, and in writing it, offer it up. Let the comment section become the record of a collective release, a field of people who chose on this exact day to begin living differently, because you are not doing this alone. There are others right now in this exact moment, watching this same video, hearing these same words, feeling this same trembling in their chest. There is a field of awakening happening globally, simultaneously, through this portal. You are part of it. You are a node in a network of souls who have been preparing, who have suffered the same specific suffering of being too deep for a shallow world, too real for a performing world, too much for a world that rewards compliance. You found each other in this space. You found this message. And now you move forward together, each in your own life, each carrying the same frequency of reclaimed sovereignty, each refusing from this day forward to participate in their own erasure. The next step of this journey, if you feel called to go deeper, if this activation has stirred something that wants to be anchored, expanded, embodied, is available to you. There is a practice, a process, a guided experience designed specifically for souls in this moment of threshold, for those who know they are on the edge of something transformative and want support in walking through it with clarity and intention. It is not a shortcut. There are no shortcuts in genuine awakening, but it is a companion, a map, a way of staying oriented when the old structures dissolve and the new ones have not yet fully formed. If you feel drawn to it, if something in you says yes, trust that, trust the pull. The soul knows its own resources. The portal closes for no one who chooses to enter. But it is available most fully right now, in this window, in this activation, in this precise alignment that will not reconfigure in exactly this way again. What you choose in this moment carries the vibrational weight of everything that led you here. Every hard night, every swallowed truth, every moment of invisible suffering, they were all pointing toward this choice. The choice to say, I am no longer available for a version of myself that does not reflect what I actually am. I am no longer willing to give my life to the performance of smallness. I am ready to be real. I am ready to be sovereign. I am ready to live inside the truth of who I actually came here to be. You are not starting over. You are not rebuilding from nothing. You are returning. And the return is the most powerful journey a soul can take, because it is not towards something unknown. It is towards something deeply, impossibly familiar. The you that exists beyond the fear, beyond the conditioning, beyond the years of careful self-management. You already know them. You have always known them. And from this day forward, April 1st, the day the portal opened, and something ancient and inevitable in you finally said enough. From this day forward, that is the version of you that lives. Welcome home.